Hey, 7th grade. As you know, I'll be at Sky Ranch tomorrow, so this is your homework to watch this video, and then tomorrow in class you'll practice adding and subtracting with integers. To add and subtract positive and negative numbers, you can either use a number line or absolute value, and we'll go over both techniques. The first technique, as I said, was using a number line. If you're a visual learner, this is going to make a world of difference for you. Okay, so I'm going to draw my number line, which is super duper straight. And of course I put 0 in the middle and my positive integers on the right and my negative integers on the left. And y'all know how to do this already, hopefully. For a negative number, I'm going to move that many spaces to the left. If it's a positive number, I'm going to move that many spaces to the right. And wherever I end up will be my answer. So, let's say I have -5 and I want to add to it 4. So I'm going to start at -5 and I'm going to move 4 to the right because I'm adding a positive 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And I end up at -1. I'm going to let you try this next one on your own. If I start at -1 and I move left 2 because that's a -2, I will end up at -3. The second technique is to use absolute value. Which hopefully you now understand better. So if you need to add larger numbers, you probably don't want to draw a number line. So you're going to look at the signs and decide what to do. If the signs of the numbers you're adding are the same, they're alike, meaning that they go in the same direction. So you add those two numbers and keep their sign. So this is same sign. We have like -1 plus -2, what we just did. I take the absolute value, or I don't have to do that yet, but they are both negative, so they're alike. We add them together and keep the sign. So 2 and 1 is 3. I keep the sign, it's negative. There we go. Effectively, what I'm doing is using the absolute value. Now you'll see that more when it's different signs. Okay? If the signs of the numbers you're adding are different, you're going to subtract the absolute value of each of the two numbers. And ask yourself which number had the higher absolute value. The number will have the same sign that number had at the beginning. So, if I have -10 plus 4, what I'm going to do is I look at them and I say, oh, those have different signs. So I'm going to subtract the absolute values. I'm going to take the absolute value of -10 and subtract the absolute value of 4. The absolute value of -10 is 10, minus the absolute value of 4 is 4. 10 minus 4 is 6. I'm going to put that 6 off to the side. Then I'm going to go back and look at, when I took the absolute value, which had the greater value. Hopefully you know 10 is bigger than 4. So once I know 10 was the bigger number, I go back up to my original problem and I look at what sign the 10 has in front of it. It's negative. So my answer should also be negative. If you need to keep all this straight, you can sing it to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Same sign, keep and add, different sign, subtract. Keep the sign of the larger amount, then you'll be exact. I did not make that up, so if it's lame, don't tell me. Okay, try this one on your own. Negative 35 plus 100. So, I'm going to take the absolute value of both of them, and I'm going to subtract. The absolute value of negative 35 is 35. The absolute value of 100 is 100. 35 minus 100 will give me, well, let's take the absolute value. So I have the absolute value of negative 65, which is 65. I look back and I say, which one of these had a higher absolute value? Well, 100 did. 100, if I go back to my problem, is positive. So my answer is going to be that positive 65. Okay? If you got to here and you said, instead of taking the absolute value of the whole thing, you just wanted to flip the way they were written, so instead you'd have 100 minus 35 and get 65. Then you follow the same steps after that. You look back and you say 100 had the greater absolute value, 100 is positive, my answer should be that positive 65. Let's move on to subtracting. So, we already know that subtraction and addition are opposites of each other, so we can use the shortcut. We'll change a subtraction problem to an addition problem by using the additive inverse, which you might more commonly know as the opposite. So even this first grade subtraction problem, 5 minus 4, will keep the first number, change subtraction to addition, and use the additive inverse of 4, or the opposite of 4. The opposite of 4 is negative 4. You already know how to add integers, so you can use the number line method, you can use the absolute value method, but either way, you're going to get an answer of 1. Try this one on your own. 7 minus 10. So I'm going to take 7 and keep it, turn it into an addition problem, and take the opposite of 10. The opposite of 10 is negative 10. Using either method to add the integers, we will get negative 3. So I can also have the problem where I have the subtraction of a negative. Same thing, keep the first number, change the problem to addition, take the opposite of this negative 1, the opposite of negative 1 is positive 1. Then I have something I can easily manage. 3 plus 1 gives me 4. You've also heard me say when you have two negatives next to each other, you can go ahead and make them a positive because you're doing that same thing. Okay? Try this last problem on your own. 42 minus a negative 12.